Morning, Jenny.
Hi, Mark.
Nice to meet you again. Good to see you here. Thanks for coming in. As discussed, we're really keen for our audience to understand what you do and the power of EQ. So, if I can ask some questions, we'll go through and you can inform our audience about your particular skills and how it can benefit all businesses, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, briefly tell me, what is EQ, Jenny?
That's a very good question. Basically, people don't really understand what EQ is. It hasn't been around for that long. It's only really, since the 1980s, been well researched, but still many people don't understand it, and I've only just begun to really understand it.
Right.
But basically, I'll try and give you a definition, which I really like. There's many definitions around, because people have taken bits of EQ. So my definition would be, there's three sections to it. The first bit is tapping into our own emotions and other people's. So it's actually tapping into what the emotions are. The second bit is understanding what those emotions are. So you tap in, you understand, and you understand others. And the third bit is taking the appropriate action.
So why do you think that EQ has such an impact on an individual's performance?
What we know about emotions, and we're learning more and more, they absolutely are critical for our physical survival. And they are there all the time, and it's our emotions that are driving our behaviour. You know, we've spent years thinking about IQ and thinking about technical skills and abilities, and they're all important, but actually our emotions drive most of our behaviour. So when we're at work and we're performing in any situation, whether it's with our team, whether it's as a manager, whether it's in front of our customers, our emotions are often driving our performance. And what we know is top performers have high levels of emotional intelligence.
Excellent. Okay, so my understanding is that if you use EQ effectively, it can actually increase performance in an individual then, is that correct?
Yes, it can. Shall I give you an example?
Please do.
Basically, and it comes back to the simple stuff. So there's recently a case study around Starbucks, and it's called the latte effect. So you've got a customer that's really miserable, goes into Starbucks, and I'm not promoting Starbucks by any means, and I'm sure it's
other coffees are available.
Yeah, absolutely. A client goes in, really uptight, angry, goes to get a coffee, starts venting at the guy that's serving the coffee. In Starbucks, they're trained on EQ. So basically the guy serving the coffee understands, listens, acknowledges, helps explain what the problem might have been with the complaint. But this person, you know, when you're ready to rant, anyone that comes into your area, you could easily take out. So this guy managed it really effectively. Another situation down the road, another guy goes to a consultant, a medical consultant, really unhappy about getting news about, you know, his illness, in a very, very similar emotional state, ranting and raving, and the physician, the consultant, didn't respond to that emotional state at all.
Right.
This person got even more wound up, and what happened as a result of that was that person's emotions wasn't acknowledged, they weren't listened to, and the needs weren't addressed. So actually what you've got is somebody that is a person working in a coffee shop that dealt with that emotional outburst, and a consultant in the medical profession that didn't. And what we know is, in the medical profession, they're not trained on any of these techniques.
Right.
So they're trained in science, they're trained in technical, but, you know, emotional intelligence isn't trained. So there's two very simple examples of where, when people's emotions are taken into account, it can really diffuse a situation and create a completely different result.
But isn't EQ just talking about our emotions, our understanding of people? In tough times in business, wouldn't we just be focused on the bottom line though, Jenny?
Yeah, I really understand that. I'm a very strong businesswoman, and actually the thing I like about this, it's not soft. What's soft is going, I feel really sad and, you know, I'm not very happy, and having some empathy around that, but that's part of EQ. But if you remember, the other part of EQ is taking appropriate action. So if I know when I get stressed, I start becoming a bit more anxious, I start not being very pleasant to people, I start disengaging with my customers, I know that, so I can act appropriately. So this isn't just about knowing, this is about understanding yourself and acting appropriately, whether that's managing your own emotions or actually managing the relationships that you have with customers or internal teams. And that's where it makes a difference, because you've got to do something about it.
So why wouldn't an organisation be using EQ currently then, Jenny?
I think there's a couple of reasons. Firstly, I think there's a lack of awareness. I think this is a market, this is a market growth strategy. I think that nobody really is talking about it very clearly. So business leaders don't know about it, and they don't know the benefits that are actually going to help their business. That's primarily. And I think also there's a perception around EQ being soft, and it's not. It's actually quite hard. And when you tailor an EQ strategy with a business strategy, hand in hand, that's when you get real strong results.
So what you're saying is it's a partnership using the two strategies together.
Absolutely.
Rather than on its own. You wouldn't use it on its own.
You could go and you could definitely do some broad stuff around EQ, but I would also look at getting some strong commitments in terms of behavioural commitments. But actually where this works best is looking at the business strategy, looking at exactly what the business wants to achieve through their people and through their bottom line, and you interweave the EQ strategy in that. This is definitely a partnership approach.
Excellent.